on one hand, he is saying, as Dr. Chortagin mentioned, that he has no political ambition in post-presidential life, which is going to be very soon. In 2017, his term as a president will end, and according to him, he has no interest in coming back to the office. On the other hand, he is doing everything to make this change happen. Again, Dr. Chortagin mentioned on several occasions that there is an existing ban on constitutional reform until 2010, but regardless of that, he is going for it. So what is his interest in this change, Dr. Bashimov?
Personally, in the politics, the personal intentions, especially in the countries with weak public institutions, play a decisive role. And after that, for the, let's say, a president who would like to, whose term is ending, not to think about the future of his political legacy will be suicidal. And therefore, it's very normal logic, and especially in the situation, as I mentioned, with a very weak public institution, with a high possibility that the situation can change dramatically, and even unexpected factors can just provoke this kind of changes. And therefore, I think that for Atambayev, as I mentioned, his personal political survival and continuation of political legacy are very important. Secondly, yes, it's about the freedom of the press, freedom of different kinds of liberties. But if we look at what happened with Kyrgyzstan during the last decade, we can see that, for instance, I didn't see, besides of a few articles in the international media, the deep analysis of the effects of membership in a customs union, Eurasian Union, on the economy of Kyrgyzstan. Only a few academic articles written in collaboration with the Western experts. Let's see how it will affect the membership of Kyrgyzstan in the World Trade Organization. How will it affect its textile and white industry, re-export possibilities, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Bashimov, you questioned how it's going to affect Kyrgyzstan's international standing. Another question comes to my mind is how will it's going to affect to his own government? Will it survive as it is scrambling already?
It depends just on the, let's say, level of control of a president, the outcomes of the presidential elections. If one scenario, if next president will be, let's say, loyal, mostly loyal to president, and having the loyal prime minister, majority in the parliament, and of course, the majority of the heads of administration loyal to him, it's a great chance to just continue this role. But from our point of view, we should take into account the interests of opposition. They are thinking that, okay, that in the next presidential election, we should start the new page. And we don't want Atambayev to continue to be the decisive decision maker. And let's us to change this game. And of course, therefore, this kind of war of compromise against each other will continue.
Dr. Chortagin, the question that I asked to Dr. Bashimov is, you also mentioned at the beginning that this discussion divided the nation, you said. Also, it divided the coalition government. Do you think this government will survive until the referendum day? What is the level of tension there?
I suppose if even the coalition government will be, divided, it will stop its activity. For instance, the process is going on. It will not be stopped by this because in the past we had some situation when the coalition collapsed and nearly collapsed, and they mended everything because lawmakers at the end thought about their political survival. And that's why it's a part of a political game. They will go for the referendum anyway.
Interesting. In Kyrgyzstan, it is not only the opposition or the political parties who make the decision. Like in the past, we have seen the Tulip Revolution. What is the level of the anger or support or the opposition on the people's level on this discussion?
Usually, people are not politicized until the real situation. For instance, on the 7th April 2010, people were much politicized. Even though the opposition leaders were arrested, people were coming out to the streets and fighting for their own fight, for the fight of Kyrgyz democracy. Now, the problem of amendments of the constitution is not clear for most of people, because they will say both versions, the existing constitution and new amendments are for the same parliamentary democracy. We have some politicians, former pro-Bakiev, pro-Akayev politicians who will fight for the restoration of the authoritarian regime, but they are not visible now. I don't know why, but they are keeping silent. It means the struggle is going on between both camps of pro-parliamentary democracy. This is a very interesting thing.
Interesting. Bruce, people are kind of confused, divided, government kind of scrambling. In your opinion, how this debate is ending?
Well, of course, we do have presidential elections next year, and you know, when I was traveling all around Kyrgyzstan last year, there was a feeling among many people that somehow or another, before the presidential elections happened, Atambayev would do something that would guarantee that his party would be the most powerful party for the Social Democratic Party of Kyrgyzstan, would remain the most powerful party and would dictate the policies of Kyrgyzstan. That would guarantee him both personal safety and also guarantee to a large extent that the policies that he's implemented so far would continue. So and we didn't know anything about the referendum last year, but that was the general feeling. A lot of people told me that when I was out there, that he'll do something before the presidential elections. And, until they started talking about the referendum, it looked like maybe that would be wrong. But now that the referendum is coming up, it seems to be almost unavoidable. I think that this is going to be a problem. It's a lot of things that are being proposed. The proposed changes are not entirely clear to a lot of people in the country. And now when we move toward presidential elections next year, it's just going to be fuel for the opposition to say, if the SDPK is doing really well in the polls, then they're going to come out and say, the opposition will come out and say, we've been cheated. It was the amendments to the Constitution that gave them this stronger hand. And we know that the Kyrgyz people, unlike the other ones in Central Asia, will not put up with what they believe is foul play, cheating on the part of the government. So I don't see the purpose in holding the referendum in December. Even if it had come after next year's presidential elections, it would have been a lot more acceptable to me anyway. That they would have done this. I understand it's a parliamentary democracy. I understand that they want to firm that up and make sure that that's in place for a long time to come. But doing this 1 year before the presidential elections is horrible timing. It's just going to lead to all kinds of accusations of this being rigged to benefit the Social Democratic Party, and it's going to create a lot of problems next year.
Unfortunately, we have to end the discussion here, unless Dr. Bashimov, Dr. Churtagin, if you want to add something, feel free.
Okay, thank you. For instance, in the U.S., Mr. Obama is openly supporting Mrs. Clinton for the sake of their party's line, Right. This is a part of democracy. Here, Mr. Atambayev might also support some people, not only from the SDPK, but from his own camp. It might be possible, but it's political life, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Dr.
I think the future of democracy in Kyrgyzstan is so important to focus on the strengthening of public institutions and this is the pillars of further democratization of Kyrgyzstan. And therefore, I think that if we look at the upcoming referendum, probably this referendum just, let's say, continue the debate, and after that, the people of Kyrgyzstan and especially electorate of Kyrgyzstan become more mature and understanding of political problems and making conscious decision what kind of choice to make. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bakhtbek Bashimov, former Kyrgyz parliamentarian and currently professor at the Northeastern University in Boston, for your participation in the Majlis. I believe as things will evolve, we will be coming back to the subject again. It has been a fascinating discussion. Thank you very much. Big thanks goes to Dr. Tinchbek Churtagin, professor at the Kyrgyz National University, named after Jusuf Balasagin.
Thank you.
Dr. Churtagin is also our former colleague in Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. You are Mr. Dr. Churtagin, so let me tell this from here.
Thank you.
And my current colleague, Bruce Pannier, was also participating from Prague, who is the editor of Kishlock Awazi, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty's Central Asia blog. Thank you, Bruce, for being part of the Majlis today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is it from me, Mohammed Tahir, host of the Majlis Central Asia podcast at Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. Until next week, bye-bye.